And people often ask me why it is. As a matter of fact, a young lady years ago asked me, why do you talk so much about abortion? Actually, I don't talk that much about abortion per se. What I talk about is the grave injustice that is involved in withdrawing the protection from nascent human children in the womb that is clearly extended by our Constitution in fulfillment of the promise of our Declaration. For our Declaration began, as we just heard, by making the unalienable right to life the first in pride of place in the list of all the rights that we have and that may be. And why was that done? I don't think it's just because it is the precondition of all others. I think it's because once you have been deprived of your sense that government exists to secure the just respect that God requires for your lives, then you have authorized the government to do what was done time and again in all of the socialist and communist and dictatorial and despotic little tyrannies throughout the world. Once they know that persons have no rights that government has to respect, then they know that power knows no limits that morality demands they respect. And they have not just killed people by the tens or by the thousands, as we will find on battlefields throughout the history of the world. They have killed them, leading them like sheep to the slaughter by the tens of millions. And it is going on even as we speak today. Why are there so many in our republic, particularly among our younger generations, who do not understand that we have been spared the scourge of that tyranny and that dictatorship because we are a republic founded not upon the authority of government, but upon the authority of God? We do not get our fundamental rights, the fundamental rights that make of us a free people, from the hand of government. We get them from the hand of God. And we will not keep them by respecting laws that trample on those rights. We will keep them by respecting the mandates of God that demand that we take responsibility, first for ourselves, and then for our children, and then for our families, and then for our community, so that we may act responsibly to preserve the independence and prosperity of our nation in the world. What are we waiting for? Some say we're waiting for a decision of the Supreme Court. Well, the Supreme Court made its decision. But you know what we've forgotten? The Supreme Court is one of three equal branches. Those branches were intended to check and balance one another. If one of the branches departs from the truth and the authority of the Constitution, what are the other branches to do? Bow down and say, well, that's the law of the land. If it violates the Constitution, tell me, how can it be the law of the land? That's the supreme law of the land. And the judiciary itself looks at that law, and if a law from the Congress, which has the authority to make the laws, contravenes the terms of the Constitution, they say, no, we can't apply that. Well, let me see. Equal branches sworn to uphold the Constitution. So, well, let's say a president or a governor gets something from the Supreme Court in an opinion, and it says, you've got to do something that involves depriving this innocent person of life, liberty, and property without due process of law. Withdrawing the equal protection of laws from this class of people. Are they to do it just because the Supreme Court says so? No. Are they to do it because some opinion has been read that in plain and open violation of the clear and readable text of the Constitution violates the terms of that supreme law? You're right. The answer is no, we are not. If the court is wrong, we are not obliged to respond to their opinions with a servile nod and the willingness to do their bidding. In matters of execution of their decisions, the first obvious balance is in the executive branch. But does that mean that the executive is acquitted of his or her responsibility to look at the Constitution and abide by the oath they swear to uphold it? Are they to abdicate like good Nazis their conscientious understanding of right in order to execute what they know to be fundamentally wrong? We now have two reasons to know. Roe versus Wade. Let me declare it clearly and succinctly because the Constitution demands it. Roe versus Wade has collapsed. Roe versus Wade is dead. Roe versus Wade can have no force of law because it plainly violates the Constitution's demand that no person be deprived of life without due process, that no state make or enforce any laws that withdraws from any person the equal protection of the law. If we mean to stand now as a nation who has proven our recommitment to the premises of our founding, then we must stand with one voice and demand of all those who claim they represent us that every abortion clinic under the power of any executive in our nation must be shut down forthwith so that our Constitution does not stand abandoned. This is not an issue of partisanship. This is not an issue of rebelliousness and lawlessness. This is an issue of whether or not we as a people mean to take the initiative to put us back into consistency with our Constitution and in conscience consistency with our own claim of unalienable rights.